Hey Simon, are you comfy? Must be. Hey, what's up everybody? Adam with Antique Automotive Service. Today we're getting back on the 71 GSX and trying to wrap up a few other odd items on this one. And I've already taken care of a few things. I'll walk through what I've already done so far and then we'll jump into the exhaust leak. A couple of quick things that we already took care of was the trunk lock. That was an easy one. And then I went ahead and threw a brake release knob on there. Basically, it's supposed to be a press fit, but the aftermarket brake release levers, when you try to just push them on there, they split. So what I did was I actually heated up this rod just a little bit with a small torch and just slowly pushed the brake release lever on. I also took a look at the hood tack that doesn't work. I found out that it is an aftermarket version and they wire slightly different than the original tacks. There is a different color wire going into the tack for the pickup on the negative side of the coil, and it's a black wire with a purple stripe. That wire is the one that goes to the negative side of the coil, and you have to run power, full-time ignition power, switched power to the lights themselves, which also powers the tack. So it's kind of weird because you'll have lights on all the time when the car is running, at least in the tack anyway, but that's how that works. I jumped the gun a little bit on this exhaust leak. I went ahead and pulled this passenger side manifold. It literally only took about 10 minutes. It was pretty easy since all the bolts were still pretty new. But I did find that big leak right there. So I've got to take all this garbage off. They had exhaust manifold gaskets on. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do real quick. I typically don't put them back on. I will true these surfaces up as well as possible and then use a real thin bead of red RTV. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but some other folks do it as well. It seems to help, I guess. I seem to be out of flat surfaces at the moment, so I'm just going to use the floor. This is what these exhaust manifold gaskets do. They just kind of, they get crispy and don't work. I might have to take this up to the blaster and clean it up. A couple of these bolts don't want to come out when the manifold is in the car, so you have to kind of take them out with it, which means you have to put them back in before it goes in the car. Look how that stuff just flakes off like that. Alright, so after you get all the exhaust manifold material or exhaust gasket material off, your next step is to figure out how to get these surfaces flat. Really the best way to do it is take it to a machine shop and have them do it, but they charge you $80 to $100, and then they're just going to take this and just throw it on a belt sander and make it all flat. But I typically just take a file and just run it until everything looks like it's reasonably close and go with that. I do just want to add that the factory did not use gaskets on these manifolds. Everything was just flat metal surfaces. The reason people use gaskets now is because they're forgiving, but they do have a tendency to dry and crack and fall out. So that's why you end up with leaks like this. So to eliminate that, I'm trying to get away from using a gasket. So as I go through this, you can definitely see some low and high spots. The shiny stuff is where basically where it has clamped onto the engine and caused these things to warp. So you're seeing low spot, that's where it blew out. So you basically need to get this thing filed as far as you can and make these low spots disappear. At least make sure that it's clean all the way around. All right, I'm not going to pretend this is perfect, but at least I'm making contact on all edges. So I will put a really thin, just literally wipe a bead of red RTV on these things and throw the manifold back on. Okay, magically back in the car. Don't forget to use anti-seize on your manifold bolts. This really does help. I've taken engines apart that have been together for, I mean, this one's been together for 12 years, but it hadn't been run. Since we have a little bit more of an aggressive cam in this car, I had an issue with trying to get this thing to idle right. So I sent it up to a guy in Michigan who's going to do a little bit of mod for me on that quadrijet. So that's why the carburetor's off. Also, I have another radio coming. This one does not work, which is why I left the dash all apart. We also had to look at the defroster. It was not getting power to back here, and there was an issue with a wire splice up under the dash. One other issue with this car is the spare tire hold down loop on the floor. It is gone. Apparently when the car was delivered it was there, but it was just epoxied on, so it has disappeared into thin air. So I got another one coming. Other than that, this car should be pretty close. All right, so the speed detailing guys got their stuff all wrapped up with correcting the paint and getting ceramic coating on. So now it's time to finally get this thing running again and get the radio in, and we can send it back to the owner. Here goes nothing. Time for the radio.